I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome back to another weekly outlook. So, bit of an earlier video today. Might as well come and get it done. I've got a bit of time on my hands. So we'll start off just quickly. We'll discuss what we've done this week, right? First of all. So, as you guys remember from the last weekly outlook, we were in an EU swing long. We were in a DXY short. Should still be here. It's disappeared. Over to TBC. Yep, here we go. Perfect. And as you guys can see, it's going very, very well. Extremely nice closure on the weekly. And even throughout the week, practically done exactly what we wanted, I would say. Bang on. We had this range continue to build as we came into the week. If you guys remember last week's outlook, we sort of, opened the week here with this accumulation, manipulation, distribution. What we said is, we might get run higher, but after that, we just want to see price push lower. And we don't want to see that high get violated, essentially. And that is exactly what's happened. Price kicked down, retracement. Then we waited for the next retracement. So this next range got built. Beautiful. 4-hour OTE. And then headed back low once more. And of course, the market maker sub model is in play. We've taken that first target. You guys can see we marked out. And these ones are imminent. And then, of course, the actual final sort of external target. If we look at EURUSD, matching up very, very nicely. However, I'll be honest, one thing that's letting us down slightly is EURUSD is holding the euro back from being as strong. And although we're in profit and it's moving in our direction nicely, it's not moved as strong as the DXY has. We take a quick look at EURUSD as well. Take a proper look anyway. But we look over the sort of, just the weekly candles, that the start of the week was okay, and then especially the last 2 days we had a big move down. So when the DXY was dropping quite hard and we would want this to be bullish, this actually ended up dropping quite hard with the DXY, meaning GU actually ended up being a lot nicer, as you guys can see. But of course, we're not in a position on GU, unfortunately. So anyways, that's practically it this week. We also looked at USDJPY in the mentorship. Took some shorts. You guys can see what's actually happened is we took these shorts on Friday evening. What I said to everybody was literally probably a few pips above the take profit, somewhere around here. I'd say 142.50 ish. That basically at the take profit, but it looks like it's going to hover here now. So if you haven't, just close it already. The difference is probably 0.1 or maybe even less than that. So I'm sure most of the group managed to close the setup, and I myself did quite early over here. So yeah, this was a very simple trade. A bit of a scary one, actually, if I'm being honest. Went all the way to 0.9% ish in terms of loss, I think just about. And what I said was, look guys, if from here it either goes from 0.9 to 1%, or we hold and we hope that it's gonna respect that high and trade lower. And what actually ended up happening, wake up the next day and price has come back to break even. And then throughout the rest of the day, absolutely just hammered down. I went towards the targets, and I anticipate that. So now that's just talking about what's happened during the week. Let's start from scratch. Let's do the weekly outlook. I want to take a slightly different approach. Not too different, but sort of just give you guys a bit more of an insight into the swing trading stuff we spoke about last week. And now, of course, you've seen live examples of some things we took this week. Right. So before we get into that, let's look at the economic calendar. We have Powell speaking tomorrow, and this is quite a cool thing for you guys that didn't know. I thought everyone just knows about this already, but essentially when you have just any news folders you don't know much about, you can just click this little folder button over here on the right. If you click this, it just gives you a little breakdown of what the news event may potentially be, and if you're not sure if it's going to be important or not, then it might give a bit more of an insight, or just give you some pointers. So with this one, it is up as an orange folder. It's hard to say exactly what he's going to say and how it might come out, but it will be something to watch for, right? It may impact the weekly outlook, but if it does, I'll drop a message, give a heads up. Monday, not expecting much. Bank holiday on the dollar and the pound, right? On the Tuesday, no red folders, but we've got a few scattered orange folders for the dollar. We may see some sort of decent movement. The Wednesday, again, nothing too major apart from FOMC meeting minutes. Now, FOMC meeting minutes sometimes it has a big impact, sometimes it has no impact. So it's just very hard to say until we get there. Of course, you guys can see there's a lot of red folders for the New Zealand dollar. Thursday, Euro bank holidays for France and Germany, but we have GDP on the dollar, right, which is going to be something to watch for, and unemployment claims. So Thursday, good news events. And then to finish off the week on the Friday, we have PC price index for the dollar and some CPI for the euro, right? So I would say it's a decent week. I would expect, the week from probably around Wednesday onwards when the FOMC meeting minutes to get a bit clearer or give us something a bit better, right? So now let's head back to the DXY. Now, obviously, like I just explained, we're in that position. We expect price to trade all the way to the lows. Now, one thing that, we'll be definitely watching for is just look at that weekly close. That weekly close is amazing. I don't expect that weekly candle to get violated. My position on here and on EU is already at break even, so it's risk free. And if anything, I'll be looking to add to this position. From a candle like this is your order block. This is, of course, the expansion phase. I'm expecting price to continue lower the rest of the month. If we look at the monthly candle, we've had a big flip, and the next strong liquidity is obviously the previous monthly low, which is over here. In the coming week, what I would be watching for is I don't think this order block will go, right? This order block here, I don't expect this to really get swept. So what I'll simply be looking for, very, very simple, is price may kick down a little bit more. It might come down a bit lower. If it, does, then you can just extend this range, but I'll essentially be looking for this next OTE with this high covered, and I'll be adding to my position and targeting this low, right? Bit of a free signal there for you guys. In terms of which pair am I going to take this on in regards to EURUSD, it's a bit undecided at the moment. Have to see when we get there, and we'll talk about EURUSD in a second anyways, but it's very easy on DXY, guys. This is a market maker somewhat. You know what it is, guys? Look, with this sort of whole framework here, what it is, right? We could have hit the trade initially like this and we didn't, right? Something like this, and we didn't take that. But that's perfectly fine. That's nothing to worry about. Instead, we took the setup like this, and if anything, we got better aura. And what it is with these setups, right? It might feel like you're late to the party, but once you have this framework set out, once you know, yeah, this is the high that's in, this is the next obvious target, previous monthly low, you can be late to the party and still make a killing, right? Let me just show you a good example, right? This trade here is 2-1. Now, let's say this 4-hour OTE, if you're very confident this won't fail, and you were to, for example, hit it like this, you're covering that high and you're very confident that high won't go, and now we, just target the lows, this trade is now 2.6 off. Whereas my initial trade on the DXY here is showing 2.2. So you could enter the same setup completely late, right? But actually yield better. Now, the one advantage to where I've entered and where somebody else may have entered even before me is that they could have added an extra position when I did, and then I had a little other extra on here. So now, my initial position is gone break even. So I'm happy to put another 1% risk onto this setup if it is offered to me. So, pros and cons, but essentially when you have these frameworks, you have these setups and you're a little bit late to sort of entering, it's not the end of the world. It's all about having a very safe place to put your invalidation, your stop loss, and having a very clear target in mind and, just positioning yourself well within that. Easy work on the DXY there, I'd say. US 10-year, take a quick look. I haven't actually checked this. So nothing to really go off of on the monthly. We have taken the previous monthly high, something I had marked earlier. Weekly is closed with, a bit of a wicky candle, which may mean this may lead to a bit of a retracement lower now. If we can see price kick down a little, might really give DXY that low resistance liquidity run just to push lower towards, our draw liquidity. But aside from that, as we've had for the past few weeks, guys, it's near enough no comment. It's just sideways. It's choppy. It's just going from one end to the other. Not really giving us much at the moment. They look at EURUSD. So now weekly chart, if I'm being honest, it does look like price wants to be bearish here. We swept the previous weekly candle just about and push lower. We've gone the daily, what we had, or rather the 4 hours a bit clearer, had an AMD accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So now, if in the coming week, right, I know we have some news folders for the euro, but it's towards the end of the week. There's not much on the pound either. up until the Thursday as well. So it's a bit hard to say. If price doesn't really show any, intent to kick up and push higher, then if I do get that re-entry, that second position, I'm talking about DXY, then most likely we'll be entering on GU instead of entering on EU, and then I'll have a position running on both, which is, it's just a logical decision to make at the time. But of course, if we can get a good kick up, because we are still sitting inside the weekly order block, right, these two down close candles, then of course it might be back on for EU. You're just gonna have to judge it, base it once DXY hits OTE. What is this showing us? Cool. Already spoke about USD. I'm not really gonna cover it. What else can we talk about? We will take a look at USDJPY, something that's on my radar. Again, guys, very similar, right? Thinking about it, exactly what I just said to you guys, right? I'm late to the party on USDJPY. I did not manage to get this initial trade, right? The initial trade, what I mean by that is that we could have hit it like, 0.62 or something. This big range here and target this, but I did not manage to get that entry. Couldn't cut out, but anyways, we're back. Essentially, I didn't take the initial entry, right, at this, which is perfectly fine. You get rid of this. It wants to delete. Okay, whatever reason it doesn't want to delete, we'll put that on the side. And if you come over to the weekly chart, what we see, right, I'm going to get rid of this entry as well. Or if for some reason they're not deleting. Cool. So if we look at this weekly candle coming into this week, I said, guys, it's going to be an obvious short week. We are hunting some sort of re-entry. I did not get a re-entry up until this high to this low sort of OTE that we went for. This is clearly a sort of like manipulation wick, very sort of sudden pump, swept to high, came to this OTE, right, from this high to whatever the current low at the time was, around about like this. And from there, of course, built a new range, we OTE'd that. And if going into this week, I'm looking for the same. And very similar to the sort of DXY, we have this order block. I very highly doubt this order block will get validated, right? At the moment, I would be taking the high from this high to wherever the new low is. Very simple, same thing. I'm searching for a 4-hour OTE if it's offered to us and pushing for these lows, right? Very simple. Past that, if we take a quick look at USDCAD as well. What's going on? My trading view's been a bit funny. Reload it. No way, guys. I think my keyboard started midway. Let's check. Okay, there we go. We're back. Cool. I'm not sure what that's for. That's not an entry or anything. It might have been used in a Zoom with somebody. Yeah, as you guys can see, I had a sort of range marked out. Price didn't really come to that premium. I wouldn't really have hit the OT if it didn't come to around the 0.62 roughly anyways. Again, we're bearish on the majors, right? We're bearish on the DXY. Therefore, we're looking for continuation lower. I do think USDCAD is shaped up nicely, right? We have good targets. This weekly close is amazing. If we can get a retracement into this, right, specifically come to that daily time frame, if we get something to work off of to short, you come on the 4-hour, have somewhat of a range. It's not the best, it's not the cleanest, but potentially depending on the day where price can shape up for us, we may be able to reshort it and same continuation plays. Just lots of ranges to be watching right now. That's a good thing about swing trading. There's a lot of waiting. You might not get your entries, but you need to keep monitoring. Just be on top of it. Make your life easy. Cool. For gold, I do expect that we will head back to the all-time high. We had a daily IO fed, very shallow. Price pushed off. Now, in this instance, what we can actually see, right, if we take this 4-hour range, from this low, that high is that price failed to reach the equilibrium. It would not surprise me if price was to return one more time and potentially, trade into that area. Now, the only thing with that is that puts me off is our understanding of the PD array matrix, right? If this is the candle that's sort of manipulated, we can see this is clear consolidation. This is a bit of manipulation in this wick. This is your down close order block, and now the expansion phase. Price may actually not give you a deep retracement in the following week. It may just give you something a bit more shallow and then head off from there. So at the moment, there's nothing I'd like to entertain on gold, if I'm being honest. Like, the targets are on. I do think it is bullish, but you know, it's tough in regards to an entry for the time being. I would say if we can get 1 or 2 expansionary days, then potentially we can reframe OT around a new range. We can see, you know, where we want gold to go from there. If we take a quick look at you. I like how NK is shaping up there. It didn't, you know, push all the way higher, but we do have what I believe will be a weekly order block. I think if the next week can come trade lower, you guys can see I have this range marked out, sweep into this fair value gap. This is actually a daily OTE. We've hit a daily fair value gap, but I do think, you know, when the price opens, it will come sweep this, go low. One thing that I really like at the moment is that we've left very, very boxed off consolidation up top. So to me, this should be a classic case of accumulation, manipulation, and then distribution back to the highs and waiting for the all-time high around here. I do think that is the next stop for the stock market from the looks of it. So yeah, essentially all we're waiting for, price to sweep the previous weekly low. If it comes into OTE territory, I might just hit it as is. If not, again, as we explained earlier, you can be late to the party and, you know, wait for a new 4-hour range to form at midweek, whenever it is, and hit that and still have the same targets. Because now, once the high is placed in the discount, you don't expect that to come and get violated anyways, right? But that is it for the weekly outlook, guys. I think I've pretty much covered everything. Hope I've not missed anything. But as usual, anything I can help with, anything you guys want me to cover or talk about, just drop it down in the comments.